This is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Frank Santopadre, and due to popular demand, basically my kids wanting me out of the house, we've started to try out some live episodes taped in front of an audience. And this week, we traveled to Caroline's on Broadway, my home club, to talk to our old friend, Louis Black. Give it a listen. You'll laugh. You might even learn something. Yeah, that'll happen. Hi, I'm Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host, Frank Santopadre. And we're here at Caroline's on Broadway in New York City. A place I think I've been to once or twice
Several
before.
times. Gilbert and I were talking. We were here together working in 1994.
Yes.
Yeah. I was a writer on a show called Caroline's Comedy Hour. I don't know how many people here remember that. Roasted by the late, great Rich Jenny.
Thank you, all four of you who remember that. Yeah.
And Gilbert did an Indecent Proposal spoof where he was Robert Redford.
Yeah.
In the tux.
Because you can see the resemblance.
Find the clip online. It's great.
So, our guest today is a comedian, author, playwright, actor, and social critic, and the angriest man in show business, not named Alec Baldwin. He's written New York Times bestsellers, won an Emmy, a Grammy, and an American Comedy Award, and performs to sold-out crowds in clubs and theaters all over the world. His new film, Pixar's Inside Out, in which he plays the character, yes, you guessed it, Anger, opens on June 19th. Please welcome our pal Louis Black.
I remember when we used to play to less people in this room.
Now, let's start off with a very important thing. You just found out, because I told you that Cary Grant was Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fucking shock. How is that? I mean, seriously, how's that possible?
It doesn't seem, yeah.
Yes, I mean, because his mother seems like she must have been like a German milkmaid or something. It can't be possible. And how did you find out? Was there...
Yeah, how did you find it?
Yeah, it's in the Secret June News.
I got to subscribe. His name was Archie Leach. It was hardly a Jewish name.
Yeah, but was a Jew.
Wow, I am... You know, something would have been good to know when we were like 9. Now it doesn't fucking help at all.
No. I heard Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia was a Jew.
No, you
Really?
no.
Yeah.
Oh, with that name?
Yes.
Fiorello LaGuardia.
Yes.
Was a Jew.
Was a Jew.
I thought he was one of my people.
Where do you
Who
read
knew?
this stuff on, like, kosher
Well,
food labels?
You could be Italian and a Jew like Chico Marx.
That's true.
Yeah.
The show's educational, Louis.
Now, are you a Jew?
Oh, yeah.
Because by looking at you, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Oh, yeah, really. In Europe, I pass. In Europe, I'm serious. If it ever gets intense here, I'm fucking going there. They can't tell. I mean it. They think I'm Italian. And I go, great, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
You talk with your hands.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I do, and I'm very expressive.
Right.
No, I am a Jew, but I'm not.
Hey, when he says he's a Jew, I hate to do a break in the show. I hate to ask for a second take. But when he says, I'll give you the signal to say you're a Jew, and then I want a tremendous round of applause and cheering. So what nationality are you?
I'm a Jew.
You actually speak a little Hebrew, don't you, Louis? I mean, now that we're on the subject, you went to Hebrew school.
I went to Hebrew school, and I had...
That's how you learned to be a Jew. Yeah, because you had no idea.
I went, to practice for my bar mitzvah, and and because things weren't going well in regular school, I found a place where I could excel, because most kids don't give a fuck about learning Hebrew. But I thought, boy, I can beat these bastards at this. And so I had I had like a 50,000 word vocabulary in Hebrew at one point in my life. And there was nobody to fucking talk to. Did you have to learn? Did you learn it?
I know. No, the only thing I know is yeah.
Beautiful. Gil, did you have a bar mitzvah? I never asked you that question.
No, I never had.
Why
never
not?
was bar mitzvahed. I'm a bad Jew.
No.
Of course, that's redundant, isn't it?
Now, Louis is a big fan of the Amish. I was reading in your book, in Me of Little Faith. You admire the Amish.
Yeah, because they don't fuck with you. They do what they do, They basically, they're Christians or Satanists. Who knows what's up? But they just do it. They don't fucking go around going, "Hey, you should ride you should not use motorized shit and ride behind a horse and sell cocaine in villages."
In fact, I think their slogan is, "We're the Amish, don't fuck with us." And now, Harrison Ford is a good friend of the Amish. And he fell in love with that lesbian Amish girl.
Kelly McGillis.
What? Who's that lesbian Amish girl?
Kelly
again?
McGillis.
Kelly McGillis, yes.
Yeah, we would have been here for an hour trying to remember that.
My job.
She just announced like a year ago.
Maybe a little longer ago.
Well, all right, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Gilbert, you love the Amish, too.
Yes. She said, I'm a lesbian, and the whole world said, who are you again? Kelly, help us out here. Yeah. Could you toss us a bone here? Say something in Hebrew, Jew boy.
I have cleared my act of all, there's 3 mentions of it, and now you're just driving me back into it. I get, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'adlik ner shel Hanukkah or something like that.
Let's hear it. Hey!
The fact that you applauded that is really, it's appalling. See, it paid off. Hebrew paid off.
Now you do a lot of political shit. This George Washington. Were those teeth wood or were they made out of ivory?
It was wood. It was wood. I learned that at the Smithsonian.
No, I heard it wasn't wood.
Well, I trust you because apparently you know shit that no one else knows.
He does.
You have a book somewhere.
And George Washington was a Jew, surprisingly. I just found that out in the newsletter.
Yeah. We were recording a mini episode before we do these shows. We do another show about where we just pick movies that we love. And Gilbert remembered the tagline from the poster from a Jamie Lee Curtis movie called Terror Train.
Yeah,
and yet he couldn't remember the name of the show when we were doing the introduction to the actual podcast. He has selective memory.
Yeah, for Terror Train, it was the girls and boys of Sigma Phi, some will live and some will die.
That's right. Anybody remember that?
Oh, man. No, I don't remember
He has
it.
selective memory.
Boy, that's unbelievable.
David Copperfield was in that.
He was.
As a magician.
He's a Jew. That's usually the guys who they told us were Jews. David Copperfield, the magician, is a Jew. Jaime Schwartz, the mime, he's a Jew.
See, now, for a while they thought like Billy Joel was the ultimate case of a Jew with a shiksa and like spitting on his parents to be with this big shiksa. And I think David Copperfield outdid him because he was going with a German.
Yeah.
Yeah. Model Claudia Schiffer.
Yeah, that's
one
right.
of them.
But that made me think she was a hermaphrodite. That something had to be wrong. I used to work the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and I would be the act that would come in. He would be there for 3 weeks, and then I came in for like a week, and so all of his shit was backstage, and it took everything I had not to go back and fuck with his boxes and his magic shit.
What was your opinion of Doug Henning?
I never had a thought.
Canadian.
Is he Canadian?
Doug Henning. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the late Doug Henning.
And his nationality.
Marty Short does the best Doug Henning in the world. What did you grow up? You grew up in Silver Spring in Maryland.
Maryland, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we asked this of all of our guests.
See, that didn't get it. See, Silver Spring didn't get the same reaction that the Jew
did.
No. What did you grow up watching, Lou?
I watched, Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that one. I watched all. You know what? All right, look, the ones that really I watched that really had the effect. Amos and Andy. I thought Amos and Andy was fucking brilliant.
Well, hello there.
Yeah, I know you do it. You do that. I'm going to steer clear of that. You work on that for a while.
I'm glad you went down that road, Lou.
I knew
it could lead to nothing but trouble.
As opposed to me, you want to hold on to your career.
No, it's not so much my career, but the people bothering you, the calling up. Was it true you were on that podcast and did that strange black accent?
Hey, can you name the two white? Because they were originally white.
Gosnell? Was it something? It was a G.
Yeah, they were on radio.
Yeah, Charles.
Freeman Gostin and
Freeman
Charles Carell.
Charles Carrault was on.
No,
was on Amos and Andy.
Surprising.
Versatile.
Yeah, no, they were.
Wow.
But I watched, and I'm still kind of stunned that they took it out of circulation. Seriously, because it's not. There's nothing really to me racist about that show. Being the white Jew that I am, I will make this judgment, but only because it's everything that I learned in fucking theater school about. Basically goes back to Italian comedy. You have all of them are stock fucking characters. They could have been white. They were fucking funny. He sold him a house that was in Central Park.
yes.
The Kingfish.
That was just, the Kingfish sold his house, and it was just the front of the house. There was no house. How fucking good is that? It doesn't have to do with black or white. It's the brilliance of pulling off that comic turn. It fucking fucked me up as I thought, God damn it, that's funny.
And Amos and Andy, see, people have that knee-jerk reaction. You say Amos and Andy, it's like, oh, that was racist.
Yeah.
No one saw it. Most people haven't watched it.
Yeah, he sold him rabbits. Kingfish sold rabbits to Andy.
We should explain that the Kingfish was a con artist.
It was a con artist. And he would make his money off of Andy, who was didn't get it. And he sold them these rabbits and telling them that they were chinchillas. and so that he could make and how much money he'd make off of this. And he had a chart and stuff. And you just go, wow. It was one of those things. That and the same show in its own fashion, which is why I don't think it was Bilko, which was Sergeant Bilko, which was brilliant and had and a ton of great comedy writers came from there. But that show, in essence, same fucking construct. The Bilko the con man with a bunch of fucking morons surrounded by him. Right. But you added the layer of the U.S. Army that he could fuck with, and that's where I started to really get into my little, it became big by anti-authoritarian shit. That's like really, because it was, I think one of the reasons that the Army never appealed to me was because to me, the greatest single episode to me in television history, for at least in terms of its effect on me, but I just think brilliant. They induct a chimp into the Army. And how good is that? And it's they're bringing it's because what the Army has decided, which is so perfectly. And I was born and raised around Washington, so it was so perfect that the Army was going to do things better and faster by inducting 1,000 people instead of like 50 or 100. So they're sending these people through, and the monkey shows up. His feet are there. The doctor's looking down at the monkey's feet, and he takes he just looked at 500 feet, and he's going like. And then the chimp walks on, and he just goes okay. And then the chimp gets his name because the shrink is talking to him. And what's your name? It was Private Harry Speak Up, because he wouldn't talk. So he goes, speak up. And then the one behind him took down Private Harry Speak Up. Then he's inducted into the Army, but Bilko wants a 3-day pass. Fucking, I know this is insane that I'm even saying this shit. A 3-day pass? What does that mean, Lewis? It means you get off the fucking Army base for 3 days. So, he tells the guy in charge won't give him, the commander there won't give him the pass. So he says, then the chimp stays in the Army because you're going to have to court-martial the chimp to get the chimp out of the Army. So the whole last third of this fucking episode is them trying the chimp in a court-martial.
Brilliant.
And that was truly to me. That was it. I said, I'm not joining the Army.
And that was created by Nat Hiken, who was brilliant. And he loved, funny-looking people. And it's like, it's supposed to, years later, there'd be Friends, where everyone looks like a model on that show. Right. And he also created another show I love, and that's Car 54.
Yeah, which I watched.
Sure.
Watched that. That one I watched, religiously. Too.
Fred Gwynn and Al Lewis before the Munsters.
And who's the other guy? Who's the short guy? You'll know.
No.
He's Jewish.
Yeah.
On Car 54?
Also, let's see. Joey Ross.
Yeah, Joey Ross was on it.
His partner,
right.
Who was one of the many comics to go, ooh. Because Hunt's Hall also would go, ooh.
And there's one of the few things. Here's an interesting, it's something that no one cares about but me. My father was a friend of Hunt's Hall's.
Really?
They were born in the same neighborhood in New York. Yeah, the Lower East Side.
Who remembers Hunt's Hall? Show of hands. Yep.
This is what life was like in the 30s, you little fucks.
Hunt's Hall was part of the Bowery Boys.
Yeah.
With Leo
Along
Gorcey.
with Leo Gorcey.
Gorcey and
Leo Gorcey, another Jew.
There you
Half
go.
a Jew. Irish Jewish. Leo Gorcey.
you should start a business just identifying a cottage industry. Identifying
His
who's
father was Bernard Gorcey.
That's right.
Who ran Louis' Candy Store.
Louis Dombrowski.
Yeah. Oh, you boys, get out of my soda shop.
It's a little like Stinky from
Yes,
Abbott and Costello.
yeah.
It's a little bit of Joe Besser.
Joe Besser, when he would pop up on Abbott and Costello.
This is what the show's about, folks.
He used to, as a kid, I would watch it, and I was very disturbed.
Joe Besser?
When he showed up.
Yeah.
He scared me.
Well, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld were such fans of that show that the Newman character, Wayne Knight's character, Newman, on Seinfeld, was basically based on Stinky. They just wanted to do this homage. You can look it
Is
up.
that
I'm
right?
not making it up. They wanted this character who was an antagonist of the main character. So Newman
I've
is
learned
essentially
more in the
Stinky.
last 15 minutes.
Than you wanted to know.
Do you know that Nat Hiken, this never happened. And
I'm going to
it's-
get a pad.
Yeah. and it's an outrage that it didn't. Nat Hiken wanted to write for the Marx Brothers.
Wow.
But the studios had their own writers, and this was at the point where the Marx Brothers were like, the big star.
Oh,
and-
Love Happy.
Yeah,
and,
Love Happy at the circus.
Right. They were on the
They're
skids.
Really,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, that's something that could have been. You must have been a fan of Duck Soup.
Oh, it was huge. That
Yeah.
was another one of those things. That whole thing where they go from war to war to war, where they're just
Oh,
changing
yes.
wars and what they're dressed in their costumes. I love that. That movie is.
It's so ahead of its time.
Oh,
we
yeah,
were talking
no.
about it with another one of our guests. I'm trying to remember who we talked about. Was it Roger Corman or somebody we were
Maybe
talking about?
Margaret Dumont.
No. I think it was Alan Zweibel. But that brings us to Groucho. You were telling us a story in the green room about a friend that was developing a television show.
With Groucho?
No, that you said you had a friend that was developing a television show, and they told him the demo was too
Oh
old.
yeah, no, yeah, that's because it was the punchline. That's why I didn't fucking remember it. My friend had a show, the first real kind of like show where you could see comics, but predating the Caroline's Comedy Hour and a bunch of the improv, and was a thing called Kamikaze on MTV. I don't know how many of you ever saw it, but Kamikaze was. It was like it lasted 28 episodes. The guy who I work with now, John Bowman, who's my opening act, was brought. We went out to L.A. The guys, and MTV did, what MTV could do. Took something that was really nice and just fucking hammered at it until it was an inordinate piece of shit. So he, a really brilliant physical comic, they basically took him and made him just a head. So all you ever saw was his head bouncing around, and he would introduce comics, and he wanted to bring people like myself who had nobody knew who the fuck I was, and other folks, and I was 32, 34 at the time, and they said that I skewed too old for the MTV demographic. And so did some of the others, and some were older. And so he said to the folks at MTV, he said, "What are you talking about? Age has nothing to do with comedy." He said, "My first comic hero I was 7 years old, and my hero was Groucho Marx. And not only was he old, he was dead."
That's it.
It's so good.
Now, two people in Duck Soup. One of them is Louis Calhern,
Sure.
Wow, yeah.
who's the head of Sylvania.
Sylvania was the
Yeah.
competing country, the opposing country.
Groucho's country is Fredonia.
Yeah.
But the other one, the prosecutor during that big crazy trial scene, is Robert Middleton, best known
was he?
as this is the end for you, Flash Gordon.
Oh, he was Ming the Merciless.
It's Ming the Merciless.
Good stuff.
And he was started as a song and dance man.
How the what? What do you do during the day?
Yes. You found us out. This is how this podcast came to be, Louis.
Wow.
We would sit on the phone for 3 hours at a time with him on the road, bored, watching Canadian television, and talk about Charles Middleton.
Wow.
And we said, why don't we do a show?
In fact, I'll tell you something really pathetic. While you... not like the stuff before. It wasn't. You were saying your friend's name Bowman?
John Bowman, yes.
That when you said that, in my mind, I got it lit up. Oh, that's like Dr. Bomer in Ghost of Frankenstein, where Lionel Atwill was Dr. Bomer, and Lon Chaney Jr. was the monster in that.
Well, like that I remember.
Yeah. And Lugosi was back.
Right, yeah.
So they put Lugosi's brain, Igor's brain, in Lon Chaney Jr.'s body.
It's true.
And he's there in the Frankenstein makeup talking, and he goes, You gave me the wrong brain. Yes. Yeah, I can see, Dr. Boomer. What good is all the strength without brains to see? Without eyes to see?
Let me give the audience some contemporary context on Lionel Atwill. Lionel Atwill was parodied by Kenneth Mars in Young Frankenstein.
Wow.
This character who's doing this with the mechanical arm is a spoof of Lionel Atwill's character in, I believe, Son of Frankenstein.
Yeah, in Son of Frankenstein, that's where Lugosi first appeared as Igor. And
I'm trying to bring them up into the early 20th century. At least. Moving along slightly.
I'll move them as far as Glenn Strange.
That's it.
As the monster,
Glenn
and I'm
Strange.
not going any further. any further than that.
Glenn Strange played the monster in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein because Karloff wouldn't slum and be in an Abbott and Costello movie. And he was the bartender on Gunsmoke to bring it back to Lewis.
Yes.
And Gunsmoke. We've come full circle, folks.
Wow.
Wow, I'm exhausted.
And still alive, who I want on the show, is Janet Ann Gallo, who's the little girl who befriends Lon Chaney Jr.'s monster in Ghost of Frankenstein, is still alive.
She's 114, but she's still alive.
As is Donnie Donegan.
Yes.
From...
Donnie Donegan's family is here tonight.
No, when you get a hold of her, if you could, and you're going to have her on the podcast, could you get me an email?
Yeah.
Notify me immediately.
By the way, her entire career was 30 seconds in Frankenstein. That she's thrown in the well, and she's 104 or something like that, so it's going to be a very short episode.
No, I think she also worked with Abbott and Costello in Mexican Hayride.
We You know, Lewis.
No. That one was over. That's really over the cliff.
We were going to interview a woman named Carla Laemmle, who was the granddaughter of Carl Laemmle, who was the founder of Universal Pictures. In fact, she's
the little girl who says the first line in Dracula. She's riding in the carriage.
Yeah.
So we said, we'll definitely have her. The next day, the obituary.
She died the next day. That is a true story.
Oh, my.
And since we mentioned Abbott and Costello, you must be familiar with...
if I'm not, I will be.
With the Bud and Lou TV movie starring Harvey Korman and Buddy Hackett.
No.
Okay. You don't want to be.
Okay.
No, that wouldn't.
Well, so you missed. There was a classic death scene. My favorite death scene of all time.
Wait a second. We should give them some context.
Yes.
This is Buddy Hackett playing Lou Costello in a TV movie about Lou Costello and Bud Abbott's life, which was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Called Bud and Lou.
They look like two guys who had never seen Abbott and Costello. And so Costello is in his deathbed in the hospital. And his agent, Eddie
Sherman.
Played by Artie Johnson.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
From Laughing, very interesting.
Yeah.
And so he comes in and he slips, he reaches under his jacket that he smuggled us into the hospital, and it's his takeout cup. And he says, I got you a strawberry malted, because you're a good boy. And Buddy Hackett as Lou Costello, he's very weak, and his head is back in the hospital bed. And he takes a sip, and he goes, hey, I had a lot of strawberry maltage in my day, but this one's the best. And then he closes his eyes and dies.
Oh, wow. I wondered if, after hearing this, the people who hear the podcast, do you think they race out?
Yeah.
Fuck, I've got to really see the original?
Yeah.
Why would you want to see the original? That's 10 times better. I didn't even see the original. I'm not going to, that's fucking as good as it's going to get. What do you need, a build-up to that? I got to see the whole movie now?
And their version of Who's on First is so dreadful.
Oh, it's horrible.
As Gil says, it's like they've never seen the routine in their lives.
Wow.
Tried hard.
It's like, what's the fella's name on first base? What the fella's name on second base?
Pretty much it. Lou, tell us about, in your book, you talk about seeing the Beatles for the first time on the Sullivan
No,
Show.
I never saw it. Oh.
No.
Like, if you reference a movie that another group of people did that played the Beatles, and it was Shlebi Makonda and Fruity Taka
Shlebi Makonda.
and Moise Kakang, I would fucking
I heard
shoot myself.
Shlebi Makonda was a Jew.
Yeah, I saw the it just seems so meaningless now. I saw the Beatles. I saw the first time they were on Sullivan.
February 9th, 64.
64, and I was 16. And it was I fucking yelled like a little girl. I did. It was weird. It was very weird. You got to realize nothing was, you're born and raised in the 50s. It's like, this was the 50s. Spam is like the height of culinary fashion. Macaroni and cheese is like a breakthrough for Americans. It's a horrific kind of a time, but very comfortable. And then the Beatles showed up, and literally I jumped up and down. I mean, it was so different from anything we'd heard before. And I'd seen Elvis on it, but I was young, much younger, and it didn't have that kind of but this really was mind-boggling. And you just started to track them. I mean, it was like insane that happened. And then I saw, and the first live concert I went to was that year. I went to see the Rolling Stones. And it was the first time I even considered dancing in public, because I saw fucking Mick Jagger was dancing around. I said, well, if that prick can dance, I can dance. And that was really stunning too. It was really like extraordinary. Those, I mean, it was just like it was like somebody ripped something off. You know, it was like all of a sudden it was like, and then I wasn't in the. I read, this was how fucked up things were. My friends and I would read about marijuana, but couldn't get our fucking hands on it.
And you had a transistor radio. I was reading in the book. You had an old transistor radio.
Yeah, Emerson, 8 transistors.
You tuned to WABC in New York.
I did.
And rock and roll just kind of...
Yeah, with Cousin Brucey.
Changed your life.
It did. It was the beginning. There was 2 sections of my rock and roll life in terms of that. I listened. I was living in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is like, now Silver Spring is like a city. I mean, it's a fucking boom town there, and there's shit to do, and it's fun. And back when I was there was fucking nothing. Not a goddamn thing, you know, like not even a spring, fucking nothing. And so at night while I was doing my homework, I'd listen to Cousin Brucey in New York, and it was like this far, you know. And I would visit New York. My family would come up here, so I was always kind of excited by it. But there was, you know, that life of with your family and the let's go to Chiches and have some and little, you know, another Passover. Whoopee fucking do. Let's have some matzah brie. That's something if you're looking for a suicidal way out. Matzah brie. Just shove it in your mouth until you can't chew anymore. Death by cement. And so listening.
You know, I just found out that matzah brie is something juicy. Yeah, I wasn't aware of this.
So I listened to it as if it were like this whole life that was going on, and it was much more interesting than my life, and that I just kind of gravitated to it. I mean, I listened to it every night, and just seemed to be another life. And then my first job was in this. I cleaned freezers in my friend of my family's. They had a vending machine company, and I, you know, like with bad sandwiches and stuff, and then I would have to clean the freezer. It's a heinous job. But the music that I played there was downtown Washington, D.C., and that was all basically considered, you know, was soul music. So that was all an all-black station, and that was like another, like, holy fuck, there's a whole other world going on in terms of music. And in the meantime, I was learning the piano from a woman who had arthritis. She was like, so it was, and I kept thinking, boy, I'd really like to do music. And then you go show up there, and she was like in her late 60s, and it cost $1 a lesson. And there was a reason, because the smell of death was in the room. And she would play, and you'd look at these wizened hands like a parakeet. You know how a parakeet has those claws? I went, why the fuck would I want to learn this instrument? So that was the end of my music career. And I couldn't sing.
I remember I found out, I used to listen for stuff on the Beatles from Murray the K.
Sure, Murray the K, the fifth Beatle.
Yeah. Oh, by the way.
Jewish.
He's not, is he?
Murray Kaufman.
Murray Kaufman. Jewish. Cousin Brucey's. Cousin Brucey's still doing his thing.
Yes.
He's still on Sirius.
Yeah,
We're going to have him on the show.
Are you?
Yeah, well, eventually.
Well, I'm going to warn him.
Yeah, warn him. Tell us a story about, speaking of TV, and I love this story, you did a pilot with my old boss, Joy Behar.
Well, actually, we didn't do the pilot.
You never did the pilot?
No.
Okay.
No, because that's the story of my career. Young comics will say, there was a series and Louis Black wasn't on it. But it was the first real break I had in terms of this kind of thing. I was performing Catch a Rising Star when it was on the Upper East Side, and they approached me and said that they were the producers of a show that was going to be starring Joy Behar called The Rock, and in which she would play a principal, and they wanted somebody to play the social studies teacher, and they were going to take my act and basically write the character based on my act. And I went, well, fuck, yeah, sure. And then they did it, and I got it. It was me. I mean, it was my act. I mean, it was really a lot of it, and I was the only one at that point. I was the guy on the series who smoked when you could still smoke on television. Even that, I couldn't even get the smoking job. So they flew me out, and we got there, and this was the first hint that things weren't going to go well. We were talking about how when your career is ending or something is going to go wrong. We were talking about it before, Gilbert and I, and my friend John Bowman actually picked me up and dropped me off at this hotel, and he opened the door and he said, "Oh, hello." The bellman came out. He said, "You must be the new bellman." So that was kind of a tip that things weren't going to go my way. I went and auditioned at CBS, my first big audition, the first time. And what they do is just, it's horrible what they do. They get a group of actors, and they put you in this room outside, and then you go in, and you appear. At that point, there were 15 suits in the room. And I did it. And with Joy and I did the scene. And we did it again, and it was funny. And I thought I was great, because I'm me.
You were good as you.
I thought I was pretty good. And I walked to the door, and this is one of the things when you go in for these auditions, you always hear afterwards. So I kind of knew. I said, they go, they'll go, "Oh, he was good, but, we didn't get to see, we'd like to have seen more colors," which is the word they use because they don't know what emotions are. So I said, would you like to see, would you like to see me do it again? I can do this in a number of different ways. And I said, because I know that you're looking for probably a lot of colors in this, and I may not have given you all of them. And they said, no, that was terrific. And I closed the door, because I knew this was like it. What the fuck? This to me was I was going to get this. They were going to fuck me. It was never going to happen again. So I closed the door, opened it back up, and come back, and I said, "Would you like to see me tap dance?" And the room was stunned, and they went, "No." And I said, "Then why the fuck did I take the lessons?" And I slammed the door. And that was that. And then 3 days later, they told me they gave the job to somebody else. As I've said time and again, they found a better me. Who knew there was somebody spending their whole life becoming a better me? And you'll know who this is, and you'll probably know his fucking resume.
Or his grandfather's work. Yeah.
Paul Sand.
Oh, Paul Sand, sure.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, Friends and Lovers.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was in the Hot Rock.
That's right.
With
George Segal.
And Ron Liebman.
Robert Redford.
Wow.
And I think Moses Gunn.
Yes.
Moses Gunn was in that. And Zero Mostel.
Correct.
Oh, and William Redfield.
Yes.
Yes.
William Redfield was in, well, never mind. What's the point? William Redfield was in Cuckoo's Nest.
Wow.
You'd know him if you saw him. He was one of the patients in Cuckoo's Nest.
I can't remember what happened yesterday.
You guys Curb Your Enthusiasm fans?
Yeah.
Well, Paul Sand was the cook that they hire for the restaurant that has Tourette's syndrome, that starts cursing.
Wow.
That's Paul Sand.
Well,
But
Paul Sand,
brilliant actor and comedian.
and they gave it to him, and then the show didn't go because, but Paul Sand called me and said, I love doing your character. Would you want to write a comedy? Write a TV pilot for me? And I said, why would I write it for you? I can't even fucking write it for myself. And that was
Hilarious.
it. That was it, and we were done.
That was your first audition as an actor.
That was my first major. I'd done.
Yeah.
I'd been in Hannah and Her Sisters. I'd done things. I'd been in a couple of things, but that was the first really. Holy fuck! We could make a living. We're not going to die.
Right. Joy hates L.A. so much. I'm sure she was happy it didn't fly.
I'm probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now, didn't you try to sell a show where they told you it was too funny?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Richard Dresser and I had written this piece. Mostly Richard had. He's a really he was one of the writers on the Days and Nights of Molly Dodd and Blair Brown, and then of course you could go on for a decade.
Terrific show.
But Richard and I had this idea, and I literally, for the life of me, I can't remember the idea itself. It doesn't fucking matter. You're hanging me on it with some other people, and it's just a way to get to fucking 22 minutes. So it was a funny idea, and we took it in, and it was FX early on. FX before Louis, FX before Mark Maron, FX before FX is, it's brand now. Portlandia, is Portlandia of FX too?
IFC.
It's IFC. Those fucks, they fucked me too. Yeah, it was hard for me to remember because Richard and I got fucked at both of those places. So we go in and we do it, and they're holding on to it and they like it and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it disappears. We don't hear anything. And literally all you want to do when you do that is hopefully, the most you really hope for is to have the pilot filmed so you actually learn something, so you see it. So even if they reject it, you've kind of come full circle with it and you've got some idea of what the fuck you wrote. And they said, and they actually said, we couldn't find out, and then finally Richard's agent got to talk to them, and they said, the problem is it's too funny for FX. I said, why don't you make up something else? Can't these fuckers? How can something be too funny? Oh, boy, we can't put it on. These people laugh so hard. People were dying, gagging on their own phlegm. They kept fucking spitting up their goddamn, fucking lungs were being flown across the room. They were laughing so goddamn hard, those fucks. IFC, those fucks did the same thing, those pricks. IFC called us to bring them a fucking pilot. Hey, come on in. We want you to. It's like, hey, it's like, why don't you? You know what? Bend over here, and we got a stick of butter. We're gonna shove it up your ass, Lou. I mean, it was unbelievable. They fucking called us. Me and Richard and another friend of mine who didn't need to get fucked in the ass either. And they bring us in. And then we do it, and we pitch it, and they love it, and da-da-da-da. And could you just give us 8 pages? Well, you never fucking write 8 pages, ever, unless they pay you. But we were so sure that these fuckers were going to buy it. They wrote the 8 pages, and they went, nah, no. It's not our kind. You know what they said on that show? It's not edgy enough. I went, how the fuck, in the course of my career, did I go from being edgy to fucking, now I'm mainstream? You bastards.
And David Kelly, the great David E. Kelly, wrote a show for you. Wrote a show to star you.
Yes, he did.
That went south, too.
Yeah, everything. Everything is... that was called Harry's Law. Harry's Law was a show that was written specifically for me. David Kelly is one of the nicest men on earth, and really extraordinary, an extraordinary gentleman. And he called up, he came to see me in San Francisco, and he said, and this is something you hear, I'm sure Gilbert's heard this 1,000 times, I'm going to write for something for you, and I really want to work with you.
Yes.
Yes. I said it to him.
You know, and I'm gonna,
now look where he is.
and I'm going to be in touch with your agent.
Yeah.
Well, you hear that all the time, and then you never see these fucks again, and the next time they say the same fucking thing. So David Kelly came backstage with his son and said, you know, I'm writing a pilot for you. And I said, you know, that's really very nice. And he said...
David Kelly, who created Picket Fences and Ally McBeal and many other... Doogie Howser.
And
Boston Legal.
My mother's favorite show. So my mother was like, this is it. You know, this is like fucking... My mother is going to ascend to heaven. So, my mother would call me and tell me, go through in detail the end of each Boston Legal show and what the fucking lesson was. And so David Kelly calls me back and says, I have the script. Would you fly out and do a reading with us? And I said, yeah. And so what they did was I had to, I went out. What they wanted to do was get me on tape. And I went out and we did it. We did a tape and it went, and it was great. I mean, it was just me, him, and the director. And we had a great time. And he let me actually, he's David Kelly, and I'm big on, I mean, I write, so I'm big on words. So I'm hard pressed to want to do other words. But he let me actually, he said, you know, now do it, you know, don't worry about it. Just do what I was trying to write. And so I could really, I was really comfortable. We did that. We had it. He said, you know, I'm going to do what I can. I'm not as big in this as I used to be. It was the only network that had not fucked me at this point was NBC. So he had gone on a bidding war, and NBC had decided to do it. And we did this thing, and he said, I'm not as influential. Now, this is 3 or 4 years, 5 years after Ally McBeal. I mean, he did nothing but hit shows, and he'd lost his influence. So he then called me up and said, I'm sure that I've lost my influence. He said, they won't even let me pick the sixth lead, so it's the sixth person from the top of the show. And so at that point, I was... I was writing my book, and I was in the midst of writing my book, and NBC called to was negotiating with my agents, and what they were offering was shit. And I mean, granted, it's good money, but they were offering for an hour what you'd be paid for a half hour, and an hour of that is like 16 to 18 hours a day, and it's fucking brutal, and I got to move to California. So that's like, you know, and I just said, and I made a number, and the number was not crazy. It wasn't a crazy number. If I'm going to give up, I like my life. I like going on the road. I like what I fucking do. I like the freedom of being that freedom of being a stand-up. Nobody bothers me. It's me in the audience. Nobody coming in going, boy, if you did that joke the other way, Gilbert, if you hadn't brought up Clem Kadiddlehopper, we would have had a hit show. So
how many times I've gotten that over the years?
So I said, I was writing the book, and I really liked writing the book, and they kept calling back, and they wouldn't budge on it. And I knew that the only reason they wanted to star, and they were going to offer me this. You have to sign a contract before you go to the network. So you're signing the contract already. Then you go. After you sign it, I was still going to have to audition for this. And I wasn't going to. And I thought, wow, they all. This is what I really thought, and this is just from being around this for so long. I thought they're already fucking me. They're already fucking me, and I haven't signed a contract with them. So imagine just how hard they're going to fuck me when they haven't signed to a contract.
So they just had the tip in. Yeah, that part.
So I said, I called David up and I said, I can't. We talked to each other. He said, I'm really sorry about this. I'm sorry I got you involved in this. I really wanted this to be your show. And I said, but I hope you understand. I can't do it because of what NBC is doing. And he said, no, I get it. And then they gave it to Kathy Bates. And I thought, well, if that was the deal, I would have taken the money they were offering, and then I would have had I would have gotten breasts to do the role. I mean, so it was, and so it was really a kind of a, but he was through the whole thing, and then when it went on the air, he called me and really kind of said, I really have to tell you just how much I don't like doing this to an actor. I've said, in the history of television, of all the entertainment I've ever worked in, nobody does that. Usually it's the guy who's serving you craft food says, they'd let you go.
Gilbert, did you have pilots other than the Larry David?
I found out I was fired from Saturday Night Live. They brought in the new producer, Dick Ebersol, and I was waiting outside the office, and he was going to call me in to say whether I was staying or going. And on the desk outside, there were these fan letters, and one was from some girl in Oklahoma, and I opened it up, and she goes, "Dear Gilbert, I'm so sorry about what happened to you."
Wow, that's good.
And I also remember, too, because you were saying how they say, oh, we want to work with you. And I remember a movie where they were telling me, everyone working on this movie says, Gilbert Gottfried for this part, that's all we want. Is him in this part. And so we want you, whatever you do with it's great. And then after they're stringing me on like this, my agent calls and says they're not going with you. And I say, well, who are they going with? And they go, Dustin Hoffman.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
I know you lost the part to Billy Barty.
Yes, yes. And I figured the only time in show business where my name and Dustin Hoffman's name, the only sentence you could make is, I've seen Gilbert Gottfried's acting, and he's no Dustin Hoffman. But yeah,
Tell us about losing the part.
I was auditioning for Mel Brooks. For Life Stinks was the name. You all know that one. Yeah.
That's the where he loses his money and he becomes homeless.
Oh,
He's a rich guy.
It was pretty horrible.
Right.
And so they loved me, and they gave it to the famous midget, Billy Barty. Yes.
Who knows who Billy Barty is? Don't disappoint him. All right, great. This tall.
I don't know if he was Jewish. I never.
Louis, you're a good auditioner? You like to audition? You're doing a lot of acting now. You're in the new Pixar movie.
That wasn't an audition.
Right. But no. Generally speaking.
Do I like to audition?
Yeah.
No.
Gilbert hates it.
Yeah, no. I don't mind it in the sense that I'm comfortable going into a room from being a comic, that I do feel like it's my room. So fuck them. Because this is the way I deal with it, and this may help you, and if it does, I'd like a little money.
Throw a little something.
Because they're getting, you're the reason they're getting paid. You're the reason You're on their fucking list. You're one of the... See, if they got the 5 they're really looking at, and then they got you and me and, Schleppy Fartlick, okay?
Schleppy Fartlick.
Also a Jew.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of that.
And the thing is, that was his anglicized version.
Unbelievable. Wow. Yeah. So, but that's... man. But we're the reason that they're getting paid. So one of the reasons I'm comfortable being there is it's like, okay, fuck you. You're getting paid because I'm here. So so that's the reason. And I won't. You don't memorize that shit before you go in, do you?
No.
Yeah. No. Good. No. Fuck that.
I don't memorize it when I'm actually doing it.
I did just have an audition that was the world's greatest audition, and it was Woody Allen, and I went in to see him, and it was for this role, and I know Woody this much. I know enough. I was in the movie, and I'd spent a little time with him when I did Hannah and Her Sister, so we're comfortable together, and he was very nice, and. He said, look, he said, I didn't really want to bring you in, but I needed to see you to see if you were really going to play old enough for this role. And I said, it's going to be tough because I really always play young. And I said, so I said, in a way, this is like the greatest audition. This is the most comfortable I've ever been auditioning. I said, because what you're saying to me is I'm either going to get the role or I'm not getting it because I'm too young. And he was great. And he literally said, he did this in every bunch. Went, I know you can do this, so I'm not worried about these words. I just really need to watch you. Just read them, and I just want to watch you, and then I'll figure out if the age thing. And I thought, how fucking good. Now that's a fun audition. And every so often you'll go in, and somebody who's sitting there behind that table actually gets it. But that's rare. I'd rather have just a big puma walking back and forth. Really.
Because you played some interesting parts. I mean, you played a shock jock on Law and Order. You played a professor on The Big Bang Theory. A lot of diversity. You played a penguin in Farce of the Penguins.
That Saget fucking
Saget.
I was a penguin.
You were a penguin in Farce of the Penguins.
Yes.
That's one of the greatest casts in the history of fucking movies.
I was looking at it last night on
He
IMDb.
called in favors left and right.
Yeah, no, really. And he made $1 gazillion we never saw it. And he paid alimony bills with that fucking movie.
And you played a porn director in an episode of Law and Order.
I did. Yeah. That was good.
How'd you research that one? How'd you research that one?
I didn't have to. That's a movie I have in my head.
I was in 2 Law and Orders as...
That's what you're allowed.
Yes, that's basically it. And as a computer geek. And I was like improvising while I was on there.
You don't know how to use a computer.
And I was like joking, cracking jokes and stuff. And then the director walks over and he took me aside and he said, could you pull back a little bit? Because this episode is about a little boy who's been murdered.
Oh, God. What was the other part, Gil? Other than the computer programmer.
Oh, but I was a computer programmer both times. I remember another time I was on Law and Order. There was this pretty girl there, young actress, and I knew she wasn't a regular.
You didn't remember her name. You remember Hookah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He remembers
The pretty girl, fucking, who knows, Louis?
Nat Hiken's brother-in-law.
That might have stuck somewhere in the crevices.
It's a selective memory.
So I said hello to her, and I said, so, will you be playing a rape victim?
Oh, my God.
And the girl looks at me with like smiling cheerfully, and she goes, no, I'm raped, but I live.
Gil, tell Louis what happened when you auditioned for when David Steinberg directed you, one of our podcast guests.
Yes, David Steinberg, Jew. No. And he was directing me on some show, I think Mad About You, and I had to say something and run off, and he yells cut, and he goes, could you do it again, please? And make it a little faster. Run a little faster. And I said, yeah, I guess I could run faster. And he goes, well, no, I don't really want it faster, but more gracefully. and then I said, gracefully? And he goes, yeah, not as choppy or awkward. And he keeps, and I'm getting more and more confused, and he's getting frustrated, not knowing how to tell me. And then finally he stops, and he sighs, and he goes, can you run less Jewish?
Wow.
And I knew immediately, and that was...
That's good.
We should start to wind down, and we'll take some questions. If anybody has any questions, we would love from questions for Gil, questions about the show, questions for Louis. Anybody?
Okay, now you want to know who played Dr. Frankenstein's son?
Lionel Atwill.
That was Sir Cedric Hardwicke.
Cedric Hardwicke.
Yes.
He came up in the first week with Dick Cavett.
Yes.
We have one right here.
See, the English actor, Sir Cedric Hardwicke, who was knighted.
Right.
And he was a brilliant actor, an old English, a British actor. And I heard that he was having... He was having trouble getting an erection. He was having trouble with impotence. So Sir Cedric Hardwicke used to introduce himself as Sir Seldom Harddick.
I stepped on your punchline. Question was here. Yes.
Two things. Gilbert still hasn't sung before the end of this podcast.
He sings every week.
I know.
Yeah.
We gotta have that. Could you tell us a little bit about meeting Kathleen Madigan and how your friendships began?
We met in
Did everybody hear the question? Kathleen Madigan is a comic, a terrific comic, and a friend of Lewis's. And the question was, how did their friendship begin?
Yeah, when I first started going on the road as a comic, which was like 30 years ago, something, and I was in Chicago at a Catch a Rising Star. She was the opening act, and we both. And the thing was, is we played at a Hyatt hotel, and the Hyatt hotel had this bar, and the bar had. One of those bars that behind it was like, they had like ladders to go up. There was just not enough liquor in the universe at this Hyatt. So you had they had to climb ladders to get shit because they had fucking tons of this stuff. And we both had a real affinity to, I had a big affinity towards Scotch. And I was going to drink every single malt Scotch.
Scotch gets applause.
Scotch gets applause. Initially, the Jew didn't get. You had to beg for the applause. But so we just hung out at the bar and talked, and she was. I've seen maybe I don't know about you. I mean, but I've seen three comics who were naturals in my life who instinctively got it, and she'd been on the road 8 months, and she was already pretty much a headliner. And I'd never seen anybody that polished already and really funny, just instinctively funny and comfortable on the stage. And we became friends, and then we went out for a couple of years, and that really didn't work because we were never together. We were both headlining and stuff. So we've been friends ever since.
Very funny comic, Kathleen.
Tremendous. Deserves much more attention than she gets.
Kathleen Madigan.
Yeah.
Question right here, this gentleman.
I'd love to hear Lewis's take on the aristocrats joke.
We don't have time for that.
You mean what? You mean what Gilbert did? Oh yeah, what Gilbert did was that's about as brilliant moment as you're ever going to see. For him, first off, I'll tell you this. Where was that? That was in New York?
That was,
okay.
The Friars.
Okay, that's first mistake. Because I'll tell you, that the joke he told that they didn't laugh at was fucking funny. And it's funny, but it's not funny fucking here. But if he was in San Francisco and told that joke, they would have laughed at that joke. Because San Francisco, I went out 3 days after 9/11, and went to San Francisco. San Francisco is a town which is living 10 years ahead of us. They're like on their own fucking planet. It was like they already, seriously, psychically, that 9/11 had already taken place in the minds of San Francisco 10 years before that. It's why they don't fucking live here. And I know this is hard for some of you to follow, and I can tell by your kind of skewed attention toward me. So it's not that tough. So I felt that the joke, it was an insane place to do that joke. Didn't you have a friend?
Yeah. I said the joke. I said it was a few days after September 11th.
I know, yeah.
And I said I have to leave early tonight. I have to catch a flight to L.A. I couldn't get a direct flight. We have to make a stop at the Empire State Building.
Now, at no time did you think to turn...
No!
Because it was 3 days after 9/11, and I was in San Francisco, and I said stuff that I could not have said here. And the audience responded, because I said stuff about Bush that I couldn't have said here. I said that I thought that what Bush did was, as far as I was concerned, was he shows up 3 days afterwards, and I went berserk about it. I went on stage for 50 minutes and just spewed. Apparently, I don't really know what I said there, because it was none of my act. It was just, this is where I came from, and this is what happened, and then the President of the United States doesn't show up till 3 days afterwards. What a prick. And they got it. Because what are you doing 3 days later? You fucking show up right fucking now, you fucking asshole. If you don't want us to be afraid, you're like hanging away. Fuck you. So that was so I'm allowed to say that there, which is pretty fucking over the top, and it's not even a joke. So at least you got fucked. You were just in the wrong town.
But it led to the aristocrats.
But really. It led to that. But for you that recovery is extraordinary.
Yeah,
that's an extraordinary recovery. What I would have done was have somebody then hold a butter knife, and I would have run at it.
Yes, right here. This Is that a gentleman I see? Yes, right here.
Gilbert, can you tell us how Paul Lynde and General Patton feel about the family?
Wow, you are leading the witness, my friend.
Yes.
The question was, Gilbert, could you tell us how Paul Lynde and what, General Patton, would feel about Gilbert and Lewis?
Well, see, it turns out I have it on good authority, having worked on Hollywood Squares, and some of the producers worked on the original and told me that Paul Lynde was like just the most vicious anti-Semite.
Is that right?
Yes. And he would they'd have all the celebrities there during lunchtime, all exchanging stories and having a good time. Paul Lynde would be bombed out of his skull. And he would get him more vicious. And he'd be sitting there going, oh, those fucking Jews. Oh, Hitler should have killed all of them. They're the reason I don't have a career. And General George Patton, who they say had a high-pitched voice. A
high-pitched voice.
And, he didn't talk like George C. Scott.
Allegedly.
And he was a World War II general, a hero, and he helped us defeat Hitler. But they said his feelings about Jews were pretty much the same as Hitler's. And General Patton used to say in his high-pitched voice, they should keep the Jews locked up in those camps.
Hey, Gil. Real briefly, why don't you tell the other Paul Lynde story? Because I'll bet listen, we're taking requests. It's like Freebird. It's like Leonard Skinner.
Hey, now
With cigarette lighters. This story's been told on the show
now
probably
I've
9
heard
times.
Someone telling me they heard a different variation on it. I heard it was like in a barn that Paul Lynde was going to be doing dinner theater. But then I heard a better version that he was in the Solid Gold Dancers dressing room.
Wow.
Which the Solid Gold Dancers weren't there. And but Paul Lynde walks into the Solid Gold Dancers dressing room and he says, this place smells like cunt. And then he goes, but don't take my word for it.
It never gets old. Yes, there was one over there way in the back against the wall. Yes. You're getting requests. I love it. Right there in the back. Did you play a character in the movie Bad Medicine
yes.
with Richard Pryor?
Yeah, no. That was with
what am I thinking of?
Steve Guttenberg.
I'm sorry, Steve Guttenberg.
Julie Haggerty and Alan Arkin.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
my friend Joe Grafazzi.
Yes.
Oh, Joe Grafazzi.
Yes.
Yeah, now, because you didn't say his name, he's here, and I'm going to have to fucking listen to him whine about it.
Is he here? Is he actually here?
Yeah, he is here.
Joe Grafazzi. We're big fans. I had the wrong movie.
Anyway, my character's name was Tony Sandoval.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted to know? Okay, fantastic.
And I remember all of us, we did it in Madrid, the movie, and all of us were struggling with our bad Spanish accents. And in one part, I had to say to someone who's wearing sneakers, the rules of the school, and I say, old shoes must be black. And it comes out in the film with my Spanish accent as old juice must be black.
Who would cast you as a Spaniard?
Yes.
It's mind-boggling. Other questions? Right in the middle there, that hand, left hand up. Question for Louis. How do you feel about Trevor taking over the Daily Show, Louis?
He won't. He may think he's taking over. As long as I am present, really, I've always been, as far as I'm concerned, the show. And then, and then they run this stuff for weeks and weeks and weeks around the show. It's one of the most unusual instances in the case of television. The other stuff would actually be longer than the real show itself. No, my feeling about, I don't know Trevor, and the only thing that I've felt upset about was when they let Craig Kilborn go, or when he left to I guess enter the ether.
Yeah, where is he?
I don't know, where the fuck is he?
I don't know. He's with Joe Grafazzi.
And they didn't really audition. They auditioned some of the folks at the show at that time, and they didn't audition me, and that kind of pissed me off because I just thought, etiquette. I'm on the show. I've been on the show from the beginning. I'm one of the first ones. You don't have to give me the fucking job. Just do a pretend thing. Pretend. Oh no, it's not going to work out. That's what you do if that's just, it's social graces, and it's stuff that's just not seemed to be taught at the network. And this was Trevor's partly the choice of John and I guess and certainly Comedy Central, but what I had said, what my agent had basically, what I asked for was, I said, can I just take it over for 3 months and see what happens? And because I didn't really think I ever wanted to do more than 3 months, because it's that interview shit. Now, I mean, and it really is. But you pick the people. But in a sense, you pick the people. And when I was first working and kind of breaking into Comedy Central, they had a radio thing, and I could interview comics, and they just brought me comics to talk to, and I loved it. But to sit there with Clara Hosewire, who's in the new Duck Fuckers Part 6, and I gotta go, yeah. And what was it like on the set? And what's Jimmy really like? I don't care. I don't give a fuck. And I can't get through a book on my own, let alone you're going to hand me like the American presidency, and it's like 700 pages long. I could sit on it during the interview, be taller. I mean, it just so I knew that it wasn't something, I like doing what I do, but I'd like to have been given the 3 months. And I thought what they should do is then really find someone and bring them in. And in a sense, they're doing something look, the good news is this, that as much as John is really important to the show, and it is his show, the other engine of that show, and just as important, are the folks who wrote it and produced it. And the fact that Trevor he's not coming in with a power base. It's not like someone who's a well-known, got a well-known persona and bringing in their own writers means that the engine stays in place. And if the engine stays in place, it's going to be fucking funny. It's not going to be what it was before, but I guarantee it's going to be funny because they throw away more funny stuff than most shows do. And that's just the truth. So it'll things will be fine. And now, if I'm not on the show because of his entrance to the show, then all bets are off, and the show won't be on because the studio will be burnt to the ground.
Is there a part of the room I neglected?
And I want to announce I've just been fired as the lead duck in Duck Fuckers Part 6.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yes, right here.
Yeah, I won't. I can't do that.
Yeah,
I just won't.
Can you?
No. I mean, I do know people that I think are. It's not so much hacks, but fucks. That has a big effect. Like they don't just get the basic. Kind of you got to be nice and shit like that. It's not tough. It's really not hard to be nice. You're working. What do you max? Sometimes 50 minutes a night in a club. Really, that's fucking tough. You fucking asshole. So you know what I mean. There's people who act like they're God's fucking gift, the entitled ones. There are a few of them around. Most people get it. It's a pretty good club to be a part of. We all appreciate what we do. Look, either way you cut it, for me, it's that that if they did the work, then who am I to say? They did the work, fuck it. I mean, I don't enjoy their comedy, and that's that. But I don't like to call names, point out people like that. I just don't. It's not my nature, Unless the money's good.
Let me go to this side of the room. Do the last one? They're waving in the back. So one here is in the middle. Somebody's got their hand up. Do I see it? A right hand? When did Gilbert last sing Dummy in the Window?
Well,
you want to explain Dummy in the Window?
Today.
What is this? This is seriously.
You're going to be sorry you asked.
I am seriously. Seriously. I feel this has been one of the most educational weeks of my life. It's been a week. I've learned more. I gotta get home and write the notes down.
Tell him about Dummy. Okay. There was a comedian by the name of Larry Raglan, this black comedian, who used to sing this song, Dummy in the Window. And since you wanted it, today I thought I saw a dummy in the window. I looked and it was you, wearing a new dress as usual, trying to look your best, impossible, 'cause with you it's not really what you wear. Why don't you wash your face? It's a disgrace. Today I thought I saw a bear in the garden.
Basically it.
And it was you.
Whatever happened to Larry Raglan?
Wow.
He was in Duck Fuckers. He got the role that I was fired from.
Wait. I can't. Where was the song sung?
At Catch a Rising Star. Yes.
Wow.
God damn it! And I worked there and I missed it.
They're giving me the light, Lou. We want to plug anything you want to plug. You've got the Pixar movie coming out in June.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, really.
You're
So your career's swinging, in other words.
Yeah, for the really, this will be good. I'll be in Traverse City, Michigan next week. You may want to roll into Grand Rapids. You can catch me in Detroit next Saturday.
You did a benefit for the Bill of Rights. Loose Blacks Let Freedom Laugh.
Yeah, we did a benefit.
Why, are they sick?
And you can see that on Access TV, but you can't see it in New York. So fuck it.
Oh, it's on. It's on.
Really?
I DVR'd it. It's on Access in New York.
Yeah, but what do you have? What's your
Time Warner.
Time Warner has it?
Excuse me. I have Vios.
Just make shit up.
Yeah. Fios.
Time Warner doesn't carry.
I have the Vios.
So Pixar's Inside Out, you play Anger, opens June 19th.
Opens June 19th, and this is the weirdest thing. I'm going to go. They're taking us, because this is something I never thought would happen in my lifetime. Just imagine this. They're taking us to Cannes for the film festival.
That's great.
So it would figure it's just so perfect that I would get to go to Cannes, and how would it happen? I get to go as a cartoon character.
That's right.
That was funny.
Louis, I hope it's been educational.
It is, seriously. I'm going to call my mother and go through some of these things with her.
Thanks for doing it. Thanks for coming
my
out, everybody.
pleasure.
We really appreciate
Oh,
it.
you guys were great.
Maestro?
And this has been Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre at Caroline's in New York City.
Yes, we're at Caroline's on Broadway. We forgot to say that. Thank you, Caroline's.
And we've been interviewing the guy who claims that he's a Jew. Louis Black. It